It's not just a burger, it's a symbol of family, community, and the American dream. I'll give you 3 seconds to guess which fast food chain I'm talking about here. If you were thinking McDonald's, you would be right. That is a quote from the film The Founder from 2016, which talks about the genesis and the arrival of McDonald's in the 1950s to the USA and how it kind of spanned this cultural kind of institution in McDonald's. When you think about McDonald's, you might think it's known for being fast, getting delivery out there, being really delicious, and being cheap. But these are just competitive factors. They're not what makes it a greatly well-positioned product or well-positioned brand. What makes it the brand and not just a competing fast food chain is that emotional connection that you have with McDonald's. You might have really good memories of sitting in a McDonald's as a kid, looking at that mascot of Ronald McDonald while you're like tucking into this amazing burger at a little kid's birthday party, having the whale of a time. You might think about when you heard that jingle, dun 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 dun, every time on the radio or on TV, and just instantly Pavlovian conditioning. Oh my God, I want a McDonald's fry. Like, that is McDonald's. And the idea of community and family is something that McDonald's worked tirelessly for years to build so that today it is the #1 fast food chain in the world. And it's done that through the idea of nostalgia, family, community, and connection, as well as being really delicious and really fast, which was what made it so unique to begin with. And there's a quote in that film, which is, McDonald's can be the new American church, feeding bodies and feeding souls. Whether you like it or not, when you think about American food, you do think about McDonald's, and you do think about the kind of food revolution that it kind of pushed into the 1960s, 70s because of the nature of how fast and quick and beautifully delicious the food was. That is McDonald's positioning. And that's often why when you think about Burger King or KFC or other fast food chains, you can't help think that McDonald's comes out on top. And you might debate me on that. I don't know, put it in the comments, but that is what good positioning is. Today, we're going to be talking about what positioning is, how you can approach it, and as a solo founder, which a lot of you are, how can you actually learn and borrow from this so it doesn't feel overwhelming, but you know what you need to do when you think about how to be known for something that you're amazing at in the market that you serve. Okay, let's get into it. So, what actually is positioning? Let's strip it back. Positioning is not your logo. It's not your tagline, although that is important. It's a vehicle for your positioning. It's not those things. It's not a strapline. It's not your pitch deck and the stuff that you put on that, your branding, your colors, your design. That is not what positioning is. Positioning is what you want to be known for in your market. It's the mental real estate that you own in your customer's mind. And for McDonald's, we've already talked about some of the different tenets of that. The amazing food, the fast delivery, the nostalgia, the mascot, the golden arches, all of these things become part of McDonald's, but they're not just McDonald's. All of these things together make the positioning. And often it's a question of, why should I care? Why should I choose you over your competitors? And how do you connect with me so that I do that? So what you can ask yourself if you're trying to work out what your positioning is to start with your target customer. Think about, who do you serve? What are their demographics? So what makes them them? So their age range, the job that they have, what they do for a living, where they consume content. Is it LinkedIn? Is it social, is it a different social media platform like Instagram? Do they connect better through emails? All that kind of stuff makes up the demographic side of your target customer. And then ask yourself more of the psychographic questions. So really, what motivates them? Why do they do what they do? Why would they choose your solution over others? What problems are they really struggling with in their role right now? And how could you plug the gap for them? All that kind of stuff makes up your target audience. And without that, you can't begin to start to understand your positioning, because positioning relates to things like price points, your pricing ladder, the value you offer, and the kind of, is it premium? Is it mid-range? That is really the kind of questions that start to make up a positioning in the market. Because when you think about McDonald's, you don't think luxury, you think fast food. Another really good example is Ryanair. So Ryanair or EasyJet, these budget-friendly options, you don't think luxury, first class, sipping a champagne, in a beautiful bed with linen and towels and all that stuff. You might think Emirates for that, but you don't think EasyJet, you don't think Ryanair, you think budget friendly. You can get me from A to B. I know where I'm heading. I may not have the best service or food. In fact, I know it's going to be terrible, but I know I'm going to get to where I need to go. And that is a conscious decision on the positioning of EasyJet and Ryanair. They want to be known for being budget friendly. And actually Ryanair posted recently on their Facebook something along the lines of, calling out the fact that they know that people hate it, but they keep coming back. They've owned that position because they know they're going to keep their service level offering pretty low, but they're going to keep the number of flights high and the number of budget friendly options high and the price point really low. That is their kind of positioning, and that's what they're known for. They've asked themselves tough questions about who the target customer is and how can we keep serving them. So if that's kind of overwhelming for you, there's a really interesting book that you can read or learn more about because it's quite a hefty read. They get you to read this when you study marketing at university. It was pretty challenging to get through it, but oh my God, was it so useful. Blue Ocean Strategy by Kim and Mabonnier. It's a formative piece of marketing literature from the early 2000s about strategy and innovation and disruptive innovation. There are two types of ways that you can go down thinking about positioning. One is either to make yourself a red ocean brand or a blue ocean brand. Now, these are fancy words. I'm going to break it down. Red ocean means you compete in crowded markets. Think about everyone fighting for the same thing, blood in the water, tussling with each other to make it, as the number one. So you can compete on things like price points, your product, your quality range, all that kind of stuff. Blue ocean is uncontested space. It doesn't exist. You build something that doesn't have direct competition because it reframes the entire game. So with red ocean, think about brands like McDonald's and KFC and, fast food chains. They might be considered red ocean because they're competing on different menu offerings and price points. And it is the positioning of how they come across in the brand that helps set them apart in terms of their branding. Blue ocean is examples like Netflix is a very well-known example of this because before Netflix, the only thing that existed was, the rental market, the video rental market. Think about Blockbuster and other chains like that, which you would go and rent a DVD or rent a video and go home, watch it and return it the next day. That was the model of the video rental market. Netflix came along and they originally loved film and it became Netflix and they completely changed the game with streaming. And that completely changed what is now how we consume media, right? How we consume films. And that didn't exist before. That was Blue Ocean. They decided, you know what? This is what the rest of the market is doing. We're going to offer something completely different. We'll do more of that and eventually own their lion's share. That is Blue Ocean thinking. How does it actually relate to you as a solo founder is a really interesting question, because you might think, well, I'm a business coach, or I'm a mindset mentor, or I'm a menopause coach, or I work in career coaching, or I'm a service-based business who sells jewelry, or product-based business, or a service-based business who works in the event space. How on earth does Blue Ocean thinking work for me? Because, I compete against other people who do exactly the same thing as me. Well, we can borrow a little bit about the Blue Ocean thinking, which is really for big brands. We think about Nike, or we think about Netflix and Google. They look at those kinds of models and you think, well, how's that relevant to me? It is a bit, because you can think about how, what makes you different? What makes you completely special? And that if people are going to work with you for your services, why would they choose you over others? And it can't just because you're cheaper, or you're more affordable, or you're faster, or you're more quality products. There has to be another layer in that. And if you borrow a little bit from Blue Ocean thinking, you can say, well, the only thing that kind of makes me different is my story, is where I come from, is the challenge that I've been through and overcome. It's how I relate to my customer, because yes, if you sell products, you might have better quality products, or they might be from higher value or premium vendors to help you create those products to be, far more high quality and premium, for example. But that can't just be your positioning, because otherwise you will fall behind, or you will be, fighting with your elbows and nudging people out the way to try and get those customers. But if you lead with a story, you're far more likely to kind of show yourself as a differentiator in your market. Good examples is Tony Chocolonely. Their story is really interesting because they come from a space of their chocolate really reflecting their mission of being about giving back to those who are unfairly treated in the cocoa farming space. How can you do that for your own service offering? What story makes you different? I mean, for me, I always talk about that my brand is called Bravebird because I feel like the bravest thing you can do for your business is ask yourself these tough questions. But it's also built from the fact that I'm very open about the fact that I had a life-changing accident, and that completely reframed my thinking. I bring that in to talking about my feelings of fear and why I was so scared at that time. But really what was more scary was the idea of not doing what I love and what I'm good at. What is your story? What makes you different? That can be your blue ocean way of thinking. So I'm going to link these some links below in the comments. You can go in and take a look at some articles around this. But if you're really struggling with your positioning and you want to know what makes you different, start with your target customer. Start with who you serve. Start with what makes you different, your story, your approach, your experience, because that is what's going to set you apart as a service-based founder or a solo founder. Cool. Well, that's me today. Have a great day and speak soon.